Hi everyone, welcome to our presentation about the Jane Addams Award. We're excited to share some of this new information with you. First up we have Victoria Mara sharing her presentation about the life of Jane Addams.
Jane Addams was born September 6, 1860 in Cedarville, Illinois and died May 21, 1935. She was the youngest of 8 children but came from a prosperous family. Jane lost 4 siblings at an early age and her mother when she was only 2 years old. She was very fond and close with her father, John Addams. John Addams was a founding member of the Republican Party. He was also a state senator for Illinois and was a supporter of his friend Abraham Lincoln in his candidacies. Jane had dreams of attending Smith College in Massachusetts, but her father persuaded her to stay home, closer to home, and study at Rockford Female Seminary, now called Rockford University, where he was an honorary trustee. She graduated from there in 1881. Currently at Rockford University, there is a Center for Civic Engagement named after Jane Addams. Jane Addams was a pioneer American settlement activist and reformer, social worker, public philosopher, teacher, sociologist, author to 11 books and numerous articles, and leader in women's suffrage and world peace. She created the first settlement house in the United States, Chicago's Hull House, after graduating from Rockford. Hull House contained many programs such as nurseries, university courses, art classes, sports leagues, all for people for all beliefs and ethnic backgrounds. During the 1890s, Hull House gained a national and international reputation as a radical, innovative, successful institution, and Jane became known as the nation's leading change agent. She prodded America to respond to the terrible ills of industrial development, child labor, infant mortality, urban crowding, and unsanitary conditions, unsafe workplaces, and juvenile delinquency, unemployment, and poverty wages. In an era when presidents such as Theodore Roosevelt and Woodrow Wilson identified themselves as reformers and social activists, Addams was one of the most prominent reformers of the progressive era. She helped America to address and focus on issues that were of concern to mothers, such as the needs of children, local public health, and world peace overall. She said that if women were to be responsible for cleaning up their communities and making them better places to live, they needed to be able to vote to do so effectively. Addams became a role model for middle-class women who volunteered to uplift their communities. She is increasingly being recognized as a member of the American Pragmatist School of Philosophy as well. In 1989, she co-founded Hull House, and in 1920 she was co-founder for the ACLU. In 1931, she became the first American woman to be awarded the Nobel Peace Prize and is recognized as the founder of the social work profession in the United States. She founded the Women's International League for Peace and Freedom in 1919 and worked for many years to get the great powers to disarm and conclude peace agreements, leading her towards the Nobel Peace Prize award. During World War I, she also chaired a women's conference for the peace held in The Hague in Netherlands, and tried in vain to get President Woodrow Wilson of the USA to mediate peace between the warring countries. When the USA entered the war instead, Jane Addams spoke out loudly against this. She was consequently stamped a dangerous radical and danger to U.S. security. Addams was critical of the peace treaty that was forced on Germany in 1919, maintaining that it was so humiliating that it would lead to a German war of revenge. At the end of her life, Jane Addams was honored by the American government for her efforts for peace. Jane is recognized for her hard work and accomplishments over the years, and in Illinois they celebrate Jane Addams Day every December 10th since 2007. Other awards, recognitions, and remembrances for Jane include a Jane Addams Memorial Park located near Navy Pier in Chicago. In 2007, the state of Illinois renamed the Northwest Tollway as the Jane Addams Memorial Tollway. In 2008, Jane Addams was inducted into the Chicago Gay and Lesbian Hall of Fame. In 2012, Jane Addams was inducted into the Legacy Walk, an outdoor public display which celebrates LGBT history and people. In 2014, Jane Addams was one of the first 20 honoraries awarded a 3-foot by 3-foot bronze plaque on San Francisco's Rainbow Honor Walk, paying tribute to LGBT heroes. In 2015, Addams was named by Equality Forum as one of their 31 icons of the 2015 LGBT History Month. Outside of Illinois, Jane Addams House is a resident hall built in 1969 at Connecticut College. Hull House had to be demolished for the establishment of the Chicago campus of the University of Illinois in 1963 and relocated. The Hull residence itself was preserved as a museum and monument for Jane Addams. The Jane Addams College of Social Work is a professional school at the University of Illinois of Chicago, named after her. Also named after her is the Jane Addams Business Career Center, and that is a high school in Cleveland, Ohio, and the Jane Addams High School for Academic Careers in the Bronx, New York. One of my favorite quotes of Jane Addams is, "Nothing could be worse than the fear that one had given up too soon and left one unexpected effort that might have saved the world." I feel this quote describes her life pursuits and could be used as a motto to describe her perfectly.
Thanks, Valerie. That was great. Jane Addams truly was an extraordinary woman, and it's no wonder she won the Nobel Peace Prize. She did so many amazing things for so many people. As a discussion question, I'd like the class to think about what are some of the things that happened in Jane Addams' background or in her childhood that may have led her to being the warm, kind-hearted woman that she was and being so accepting of others. So think about that for a minute, and then we're going to continue on with Nicole's presentation of the background of the Jane Addams Award.
The Jane Addams Children's Book Awards are given annually to books published the preceding year and must examine the themes of peace, social justice, world community, and equality of the sexes and all races to be considered for the award. The Jane Addams Children's Book Awards have been presented annually since 1953, and the picture book category was created 23 years ago in 1993. Honor books may also be chosen in each category. Authors of the award-winning and honor books each receive a certificate and a cash reward. There are also seals designated towards each recognition that are available for purchase. The announcement date of the awards changed throughout the years. From 1963 to 2002, the announcement fell on Jane Addams' birthday, which is September 6th. And from the year 2003 all the way to the present, the winners are announced on or around April 28th, which is the anniversary of the founding of the Women's International League for Peace and Freedom, which Jane Addams was the co-founder and first president of. Those responsible for selecting each year's winners and honors book are a part of a national committee of members concerned with the children's books and their social value. Submission may be done by the book publishers or requested by the committee. To be considered, books must address one or more of the following questions. How can people peacefully settle disputes with a special emphasis on diverse makeup and outlook? How can we begin to think more creatively and humanely about injustice and conflict, past or present, real or fictionalized? How can young people participate in creative solutions to the problems of war, social injustice, racism, sexism, homophobia, ageism, and the concerns of the physically challenged? How can people of all races, cultures, nations, and economic systems live peacefully together? Does the book promote an understanding of the role of the women in society, gender roles, the need to overcome gender stereotypes, for example, role models of both genders? Themes that may be included in the books are solving problems courageously and nonviolently, overcoming prejudice, breaking cycles of fear, approaching life with self-confidence and strength, understanding human needs with compassion, broadening outlook to appreciate a variety of cultures, and accepting responsibility for the future of all people. Books eligible for this award may be fiction, poetry, or nonfiction. Entries should be suitable for ages 2 through 12. Entries may be books of any length, and entries should be well written and well illustrated. However, illustrations are not required. Unfortunately, we do not have the time to go over all the award-winning books, so I picked out a few of my favorites. The first being Aunt Harriet's Underground Railroad in the Sky by Faith Ringgold. This is the first book to win the picture book category, and it is about a young African American girl named Cassie who meets a train full of people in the sky but gets left behind before she can board. She then encounters Harriet Tubman and retraces the steps that the escaping slaves took on the real Underground Railroad. Themes addressed in this book includes breaking cycles of fear and solving problems courageously and nonviolently. This book is a great tool to introduce students to Harriet Tubman and what she did to help free the slaves. Patrol, an American soldier in Vietnam, is a poetry book about a young soldier during the Vietnam War. The book depicts the character's actions, thoughts, and fears, and the young man comes face to face with his enemy only to find that he too is a young man. The question explored in this book is how can we begin to think more creatively and humanely about injustice and conflict, past or present, real or fictionalized. And throughout the entire book, this young man has been saying that the enemy is the other people. However, when he realizes that he too is the enemy, his thoughts begins to change. And students can use this as a way to think about how humans interact and how their perspectives or how the perspectives of others can change or affect others' actions. This book is a 2016 Jane Addams Award winner, and it is called New Shoes, and it is about a young girl named Ella May, and the hand-me-down shoes that originally was from her brother doesn't fit, so she decides that it is time for new shoes. However, since the book is set during the Civil War era, Ella May is not allowed to try on shoes because of her skin color. Determined to bring change, she teams up with her friend Charlotte to fix up old shoes to sell to the African American community where they are able to try on all the shoes that they desire. And the question is, how can young people participate in creative solutions to the problems of war, social injustice, racism, sexism, homophobia, ageism, and the concerns of the physically challenged?
Thanks, Nicole. Those were some wonderful and very well-deserving books of the Jane Addams Award. Next up, we're going to have a presentation by Vicki Gibbs, and her presentation will be about a lesson plan for the book Brave Girl that also won the Jane Addams Award.
Jane Addams books are good books for using for teaching different kinds of materials in class. This is a lesson plan for Brave Girl, which is written by Michelle Markle and illustrated by Melissa Sweet. And this is a book that you could use in a classroom to teach about different kinds of people, immigration, people who stood up for their rights, unions, all kinds of things. This is the cover of the book. It's called Brave Girl, Clara and the Shirtwaist Makers' Strike of 1909. About the book, when Clara Lemlich arrived in America, she couldn't speak English. She didn't know that poor young women had to go to work, that they traded an education for long hours of labor, that she was expected to grow up fast. But that didn't stop Clara. She went to night school, spent hours studying English, and helped support her family by sewing in a factory. Clara never accepted that girls should be treated poorly and paid little. Clara led the largest walkout of women workers in the country's history. Clara had learned a lot from her short time in America. She learned that everyone deserved a fair chance, that you had to stand together and fight for what you wanted. Clara Lemlich was a real person. This is a picture of her. Before you begin reading the book, you could start a class discussion about immigration. You could ask the students questions such as, what's an immigrant? Do you know where your family came from? Do you think life was easy for immigrants when they came to this country? Why or why not? Another discussion question you could have while you were reading the book with the children is, what were some of the rules in the factory? Do you agree with them? Why or why not? And you could show a picture of people that were actually working in a shirtwaist factory. Another discussion question would be, describe a typical day for Clara. How is it similar to or different from your typical day? This would be a way for the children to maybe contrast and compare their lives to the lives of Clara or people in her time. Another discussion question is, what is a union? What is a strike? Why are these both important for Clara and her fellow workers? The children might be unused to or unaware of what unions and striking and these types of issues were, so it would be interesting for them to learn about those. Clara stood up for what she believed was unfair. Is there something that you feel is unfair in the world today? And you could lead this discussion with your students and talk to them about different things that they feel are unfair and what maybe they would do to rectify the situation. Other discussion questions that you might use as you read the book. What job did Clara get? Describe the conditions in her workplace. List specific details from the story. Look carefully at the illustrations. What details do you notice that indicate this story occurred over 100 years ago? Read the final lines of the story aloud, proving that in America, wrongs can be righted, warriors can wear skirts and blouses, and the bravest hearts may beat in girls only 5 feet tall. What does this mean? How might this apply to your life? And you could talk about them and maybe things that they could do, even though that they don't seem like that they're a warrior. And after you finish the assignment, you could have the children write a speech about something that's unfair in the world. They could focus on something in the world they believe is unfair. They could write a speech in which they state their concern and suggest ways to resolve the injustice. Then you could have the students rehearse their speeches and present them to the class. And that could be something that could be kind of the final project for this particular story. Other suggestions are things like having the children do a family tree, or maybe they could talk about what countries they came from, or if they know about their ancestors, when they came to this country, and different activities like that could make this quite an interesting book to read. The Common Core standards, I chose the ones for reading literacy for 5th grade. They could determine a theme of a story, drama, or poem from details in the story, including how characters in the story or drama respond to challenges, or how the speaker in a poem reflects upon a topic. Then they could summarize the text. So a discussion question about James Addams Award books. So what are some ways that you can integrate James Addams Book Award books into your classroom curriculum? There's so many different books with so many different topics and so many different ideas that think about ways that you could use those different books and really make some very intriguing and interesting discussions and projects for your classroom and working with your children.
Thanks, Vicki. What a great lesson plan that would be in a classroom. Now that you've had some time and had a couple examples of how to use these different books in your classroom, I want you to think either as you're doing your picture book project or if you've already started it, think about some of the books that you've read that have won this award and how you might use it in your classroom, what different topics it could help you discuss with your students. And then next up we'll have a presentation by Jasmyn, and she is talking about a book called The K that was turned into a movie. Enjoy. This presentation is about the book turned movie called The K. The K was written by Theodore Taylor and was awarded the Jane Addams Award in 1970. In 1974, it was turned into a television movie on NBC. The book is about Philip, who is a young white boy, and his mother, and they want to leave their home in Caraco because it was becoming increasingly dangerous. They board a ship, and as they're on the ship, it is torpedoed. Philip becomes blind, and he meets Timothy, a black man. And Philip has many prejudiced thoughts that have been instilled with him throughout his childhood. And Timothy teaches Philip many, many things, including that just the way someone looks doesn't determine what kind of person they are. They start to share a special bond. They're stuck on an island together until Timothy eventually dies, and Philip is finally saved from the island. Philip's eyesight is eventually restored, and he becomes a sea explorer, and he wants to go back to where him and Timothy were stuck on the island. This book was viewed as very controversial, as well as the movie. Prior to the airing of the movie on NBC, the Council on Interracial Books for Children protested outside the NBC production offices and hosted a press conference. This was because the CIBC viewed the book as being racist. Before Philip goes blind in the book, he describes Timothy, the black man, as being ugly, and it was inferred by the CIBC that he thought he was ugly just because he was black. Philip also describes Timothy as looking big and scary. The CIBC thought that the relationship between Philip and Timothy was one like a faithful slave to his master. Throughout the book, though Philip sees Timothy in a new light, the book is about seeing someone for who they are, not the racial prejudice that Philip shows in the beginning of the book. This is why the book is not seen as controversial so much anymore. But the Jane Addams Peace Foundation asked for the award to be revoked for this reason. The award was eventually revoked, but it's still listed as an award winner. The book and movie aren't quite seen to be quite as controversial anymore as they were before. Like I said before, it caused huge controversy. It was seen as racist, and many people had many issues with this being on TV. If you would like to see a copy of The K, you can go on to YouTube and just search The K, and that's C-A-Y. There is a full video of the TV movie so that you can watch it and get an idea and see if you still think it's controversial in this day and age, or if it's something that is not quite so sensitive anymore. We hope you enjoyed this presentation. Thank you. Jasmyn, that was really interesting. So often there are books and movies that we come across that seem fine to us, but are often come off as racist or controversial or offensive to other people. I mean, as we become teachers, this is something we really need to think about in our classrooms is what books we're introducing, and if it's something that could be offensive to someone or a group of people. So thanks for that. Now that we are coming to a close of our presentation, I would like to extend the invitation to you to find these Jane Addams Book Award winners and think of ways that you can teach certain subjects that they cover. These books cover everything from racism and how it's handled. There are books that cover immigrants, so many things of being accepting, things that are so important to our students as they're growing up. So think of different things and ways that you can teach these subjects using these books. We hope you enjoyed our presentation and have a great day.